What's a scary or disturbing fact that would probably keep most people awake at night? When swimming in stagnant water you could inhale an amoeba which eats its way through your nose and then eats your brainstem. You can get a flesh-eating amoeba from a water park. Yep, and there is no cure or treatment. There are some medicines that had some effect against the disease, but once you get it, you're almost surely dead. Edit 1. The amoeba needs perfect environment to survive. Warm and kinda still water, like rivers, lakes, pools etc. with poor maintenance are examples of that environment. Thermal pools are also a good example. Edit 2. Until 2012, there has been 310 confirmed cases. It has been detected on all continents, except for Antarctica. Edit 3. The name of the amoeba is Naegleria fowleri, and it causes primary amoebic meningoencephalitis or PAM. Edit 4. Surprise surprise, you can get the amoeba from tap water as well. Some people have actually used tap water to clean their sinuses and got the disease. Edit 5. Sorry for so much edits, just trying to get all the info here. Thanks for the attention I guess, wasn't expecting so much upvotes. Edit 6. Research has shown a lot of people actually get exposed to the amoeba, but only a small part of the population gets actually ill. Edit 7. Yep, another edit. If you notice the disease early on, the administration of both amphotericin B and miltefosine have shown some effects against the disease. Your chances of living are still very low though, even with medicine. Edit 8. It's amoeba, not amoeba. You guys get the point. No gonna edit every single word. You could have a brain aneurysm with 0 symptoms. Any day it could rupture and kill you from significant blood loss. Happened to my mom's friend right in front of her. The seemingly perfectly healthy woman died at 40 without warning during a work trip and while having drinks with her friends. 1 second she was laughing, the next second she was on the ground. Never woke up again. My poor mom was the one that had to call her husband and kids. The frontal lobotomy was performed with no anesthesia, and it was an outpatient procedure. Even funner facts. It was performed by sticking an ice pick in the tear duct, punching through the skull, and swishing it around in the brain tissue. There was no way to gauge or predict its effectiveness, because you were just swirling it around in brain tissue. And the funnest fact of all, because of #2, patients were often kept awake and asked questions during the lobotomy to see when their mental performance/behavior changed to determine when the lobotomy was done. Edit with additional fun fact, the guy who invented and popularized it won a Nobel Prize. You can actually wake up during surgery, but the worst part is that you are still paralyzed. So you can feel everything what they do to you, but you can't signal to them that you are conscious. This is one of my worst fears. Actually, if a sedative wears off, but a paralytic does not, the only thing you can do is cry. We were taught in school that if your sedated patient cries you done messed up and you need to reset it right away. In the 70s 80s, the first case of many Southeast Asian refugees in the US who died screaming in their sleep was recorded. This was common for Lao Hmong men who lived through the Cambodian genocide and CIA recruitment for the Lao Civil War. It's theorized that this was an extreme form of PTSD. One case, the man had stayed up 4 days fearing he would be attacked if he slept. He drank coffee and lied to his parents about sleeping. He did everything he could to keep from sleeping. When he finally fell asleep, his parents thought this crisis was over. Then they heard screams in the middle of the night. By the time they got to him, he was dead. He died in the middle of a nightmare. Edit. I said first recorded, but I'm dumb and this was not the first record of it. And Laos Civil War not Nam. Edit 2. Some articles from the time. A digital New York Times article from when the cases really started racking up in 81. And LA Times article from 88. The serial killer Richard Chase would try random houses to break into. If the door was unlocked, he saw it as being an invitation. If it was locked, he saw it as a sign that he was unwelcome. When I was younger I was in my room one time, home alone. I heard our front door open and someone come inside while everyone was out. Hours later, Every comes home. I asked, No one had stopped by. It always made me very uncomfortable. I only really heard the sound of them coming in, not leaving. I was burgled a few years ago. It was about 2 AM, and I was sat at my computer wearing full headphones and an Oculus Rift headset, home alone. It's only when I took it all off and went to get a drink that I saw all my downstairs doors were wide open, as well as the rear exit door. It still freaks me out to think someone could have been stood right behind me and I would have had no idea. People who sleep less than 6 hours a night are at an increased risk to die prematurely. My husband stays up late a lot, and he read this information recently. It was enough to put the fear of God in him for like 3 days, then he was back to all-nighters. Edit, but I like the irony that this information is what would keep people from sleeping lol. This one's a little esoteric, but false vacuum decay. The fundamental properties of the universe might suddenly decide to change one day. It might be an insignificant change, or so great that all matter would just cease to exist, and we wouldn't see it coming until we blinked out of existence. Edit, fixed link so it didn't point to the in-fiction bit. Whoa, I didn't think that was legit at first, because the part of the wiki page it brought up was how it's been used in fiction. I did a mini project on quantum tunneling a few years back, but have never heard about false vacuum decay before. Thanks for the cool read, absolutely fascinating and terrifying. There is a spider that has fangs so powerful that it can bite through a leather boot. It usually attacks multiple times and you have to grab it and pry it off of you. It is also incredibly deadly. Edit, I wrote it below here, but it's the Sydney funnel web spider. Because of its venom it is the deadliest spider. If the Yellowstone supervolcano erupted, it would decimate most of America. It's unlikely to happen anytime soon, but it's 2020, the year of absolute ducking frick. So, it wouldn't surprise me at this point. There is a plant called Dendrochnide morides, also known as Jimpy or the suicide plant. It's mostly found in Australia and has little stinging hairs all over it. When touched, they inject a neurotoxin in your body which hurts so much that most people rather kill themselves than waiting the 1 or 2 days until it gets better. I have the information from another redditor on this sub and haven't found anything that literally says yeah they killed themselves, but I do believe it's true. Anyway, Ernie Ryder, who got hit by this plant in 1963, said, "For 2 or 3 days the pain was almost unbearable. I couldn't work or sleep. Then it was pretty bad pain for another fortnight or so. The stinging persisted for 2 years and recurred every time I had a cold shower. There's nothing to rival it. It's 10 times worse than anything else." Source: in child P cases, someone has to actually watch the video beginning to end so they can testify about it in court to seal a conviction. I've been that guy, kinda. Early 2000 I was working the abuse depth at an ICE. 99% complaints were spam, port scanning, etc. But about 4 to 5 times a year I'd get a child P complaint that one of our users was hosting a FTP site for distributing child P. I'd have to go in, download a few files, look at them to confirm, then put them on a floppy disk, encrypt, and call the police. Duck if I didn't see horrible frick. Some nights I didn't sleep too well. But then came a few days/weeks later the newspaper article about the guy getting arrested, and that made it worth it. When an autopsy is performed, the organs are removed, weighed, sliced, and placed into a plastic bag. This includes the brain and tongue. Once they're finished, they put everything together in the plastic bag and place it in the chest cavity. So when you're buried, your brain is actually in your chest. Not always, depends on who does the autopsy. Assisted an autopsy and we sutured the brain back into the skull after weighing it. We didn't weigh the tongue either, but everything else was put into the bag into the body though, like you said. Unit 731. Japan during WW2 makes Nazi experiments look like child's play. Here's a few things they did. Experiments never used anesthesia, so prisoners were awake and felt everything. Vivisection. frostbite testing, forced pregnancy, biological/germ testing, weapons testing, removal of limbs, and attaching them to other areas of the body and high pressure chambers. The worst part is none of the doctors or staff who conducted these experiments were ever punished. They were granted immunity in exchange for all of the documents they had collected doing these experiments. Hey lovely people, like and subscribe if you want to see more.